have heard a whimper or two. In fact, that's what my castmates used to sound like on set. It's just fine. It'll distract from the long and boring monologue that I'm about to deliver. God, now that we can't talk about the show, I don't know what to say. So we're organizing a little strike picket for the cast of all the world. How do you say it? How do we say it? Without saying it. Anyway, we're organizing. Security! We're organizing a picket, and Eric Kripke is sort of headlining the organizing of this event. And he sent out a poster for us to all announce the picket that we're doing. It's like a little, PDF that he put together that has a gigantic, that word on the top. I was like, Eric, what are you trying to do? Get us in trouble with the union at the picket? We're advertising the picket, and we're going to get blacklisted by doing something. I would like to tell you a short story, if that's right. So bear with me. So I'm wearing a belt buckle right now that has a salmon on it, which has significant meaning to me for two reasons. One, for some reason, my son named my daughter, when he was a toddler and she was a baby, Sockeye. We have no idea where it came from, and it doesn't at all have any kind of similarities to her name Mason. But he called her Sockeye, and so it stuck. So it's symbolic in that sense. And then I was on a bike trip on the Olympic Peninsula with a friend of mine right before Mason was born, and we were like we were on a long bike trip where we were camping day after day. We had been riding all day. It was evening. We were like, we should stop and get some salmon, because we finally came to this little town and there was a grocery store, and we'll cook it over the campfire tonight. And we went into the grocery store, and there was no salmon to be found. It was a really shitty little grocery outpost. It's okay. He doesn't speak yet, right? Okay. So we go into the store and ask this woman, like, there's no fish here. Do you know, is there anywhere in town where we could get some salmon? And she was like, no, this is the only grocery store, I'm sorry. And we walked down the aisle, and a couple minutes later, she caught up to us and she was like, I'm sorry, I just felt really bad after you asked and walked away, because I have salmon in the trunk of my car. And I just felt like God would strike me down if I didn't tell you that I had salmon in my car. She had just been to the food bank, and a local fisherman had just caught a bunch of fresh salmon and delivered it to the food bank. And so she presented us with this beautiful fillet of salmon. Everyone was like, what? How did that happen? So she gave us some salmon, and then we rode up this mountain. We were coming down the mountain, and we decided, we looked at each other like, oh, we're gonna race. And we got up to about 55 miles an hour before we hit each other and had a horrible bike accident. And as it became clear that we were gonna fall, I looked at my friend and I said, I'm sorry, because it was my fault, and because we were gonna die. And as we were falling, it was that moment that you hear about, like your life flashes before your eyes. And I had all of this time as I was falling to like process my life, think about my kids, all the things that might have happened going forward had this moment not happened. Time literally slowed down. And it's the only time that I've ever had that experience. And then I remember falling and being like, I'm still alive, I'm still alive, I'm still alive. When I finally stopped sliding on the pavement, I kind of stood up and I was like, I can move, I can stand up. There was like blood all over the place. And I saw my friend in a ditch like 20 yards away, unresponsive, also covered in blood. Long story short, actually long story pretty long. He had a terrible concussion. He didn't know where we were. He didn't know what year it was. And we're out in the boondocks. So this guy pulls up, and eventually, like 15 minutes later, this guy pulls up in this old Cadillac. The back seat was full of toilet paper because he'd just been to Costco, which I know because when I said, can we get a ride? He said, no, I got all this stuff from Costco. And he just drove away. And I was like, oh my God. So we get, finally, somebody comes by. It's been like 45 minutes. Finally, someone comes with a pickup truck, throws our stuff in the back of the pickup truck, and drives us to the fire station. They get my friend on a stretcher. As soon as he got on a stretcher, I collapsed. Like I literally, my legs went out from under me because I'd been in shock, and the only thing that was sort of keeping me going was trying to get my friend taken care of. You go to the hospital. We discover our fucking fish is gone. And it was like this immensely symbolic thing for both of us. We took away from it this lesson, like we have to really appreciate the gifts that we get in life. And we can't take things for granted. So we've referenced that over the years, that moment, and remind ourselves about the salmon. And I had a similar experience this morning, which was weird because I had just laid out my clothes. I was like, oh, the salmon belt buckle. And then I saw this. Sorry, this is also a slightly graphic little segment of the story. I had a little pimple on my leg. It's like a little white head with a red around it. And I was like, ooh, gross. And so I did what any sane human would do, which was I squeezed it between my thumbnails. You know what I mean? You with me? And something happened. It popped. And this little tiny droplet, little yellow droplet, came into the air and toward my eye. And time literally stopped. I could see, in slow motion, and I could process what was about to happen, how my life was going to change forever, how I would remember this moment forever. And I didn't have time to blink. But it hit me in the eye. Not sure what the moral of the story is. I know there's one in there. As soon as it happened, I was like, that's the second time in my life where time slowed down. And I immediately thought of when I thought I was dying and when I was just about to be so grossed out. I'm sorry for sharing that. I know it was really graphic, and I wish I could undo it, but I can't.